our heart glows, and secret unrest gnaws at the root of our being. Dealing with the unconscious has become a question of life for us. The wine of youth does not always clear with advancing years. Sometimes it grows turbid. Understanding does not cure evil, but it is a definite help, inasmuch as one can cope with a comprehensible darkness. Nobody, as long as he moves about among the chaotic currents of life, is without trouble. Resistance to the organized mass can be effected only by the man who is as well organized in his individuality as the mass itself. Follow that will and that way which experience confirms to be your own. A scream is always just that, a noise and not music. Shrinking away from death is something unhealthy and abnormal which robs the second half of life of its purpose. The greatest and most important problems of life are all fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. All the works of man have their origin in creative fantasy. What right have we then to depreciate imagination? We deem those happy who, from the experience of life, have learnt to bear its ills without being overcome. We why them. Masses are always breeding grounds of psychic epidemics. The debt we owe to the play of imagination is incalculable. Without this playing with fantasy, no creative work has ever yet come to birth. The debt we owe to the play of the imagination is incalculable. It is a fact that cannot be denied. The wickedness of others becomes our own wickedness because it kindles something evil in our own hearts. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. We cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate. It oppresses. As far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. A particularly beautiful woman is a source of terror. As a rule, a beautiful woman is a terribilis opinum. In all chaos there is a cosmos. In all disorder a secret order. The healthy man does not torture others. Generally it is the tortured who turn into torturers. There is no coming to consciousness without pain. Where love rules, there is no will to power, and where power predominates, there love is lacking. The one is the shadow of the other. The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play, instinct acting from inner necessity. The creative mind plays with the objects it loves. The word happy would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness. Through pride we are ever deceiving ourselves, but deep down below the surface of the average conscience a still small voice says to us, something is out of tune. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. It all depends on how we look at things and not how they are in themselves. Knowledge rests not upon truth alone, but upon error also. A man who has not passed through the inferno of his passions has never overcometh them. Every form of addiction is bad. No matter whether the narcotic be alcohol or morphine or idealism. The pendulum of the mind alternates between sense and nonsense, not between right and wrong. When an inner situation is not made conscious, it appears outside as fate. We should not pretend to understand the world only. By the intellect The judgment of the intellect is only part of the truth. The shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is not a recipe for living that suits all cases. Children are educated by what a grown-up is, and not by his talk. Show me a sane man, and I will cure him for you. Often the hands will solve a mystery that the intellect has struggled with in vain. Man needs difficulties. They are necessary for health. There is no such thing as a pure introvert or extrovert. Such a person would be in the lunatic asylum. If one does not understand a person, one tends to regard him as a fool. Man's task is to become conscious of the contents that press upward from the unconscious. There is no birth of consciousness without pain. Neurosis is always a substitute for legitimate suffering. The least of things with a meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without it. Who has fully realized that history is not contained in thick books but lives in our very blood?